Exactly.
All right, Christine, tell us about your lesson learned this weekend.
All right. I actually sent Mike an email on it because I was like, help, what do I do? So, a reminder, remind your clients, do not walk onto a new home development into a community without you, their agent. And my example of what happened, also don't remind your clients, do not sign up on Redfin or Zillow and have another agent contact you. What happened was my client, she was just casually looking online. She looked on Redfin. She lives here in Newport, but she grew up in Chino Hills. So she wanted to look at a condo and she didn't want to waste my time driving her all the way out there in case she didn't like the way it looked inside. She just wanted to see the inside. She puts her first name and her phone number on Redfin, and agent contacts her.
Yep.
She goes and sees the condo with the agent. Then the agent says, well, there's a KB Homes with brand new homes next door. Why don't you go look on there? So she walks into the community and sees the house she likes, calls me, says, I want to put an offer in on this house.
Too late.
Well, what? It's too late. I was like, why didn't you call me when you wanted to see the house, the condo? Like, I'm your agent. We're looking for houses for you. She's like, I know, but it's far and I didn't want to waste your time. And I'm like, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to go wherever you need to go and to help you get into wherever and look at. I don't care how many houses we have to look at. That's why I'm here, to service you and to help you find what your dream home is, whatever that may be. So some places will put in writing that you are their agent. However, KB Homes will not. And so my client was then tied to this other agent that she didn't know. My client felt like she got bamboozled because none of this was disclosed to her. And if she would have known, she wouldn't have walked into the community. But I also didn't tell my client, don't go into a new build community without me. So lesson learned. I ended up taking her to look at 5 other different houses. We put an offer on a house. We didn't get the house. We just found out this morning that our offer was not accepted. So we're back to square one, which is fine. But I was like, oh my gosh, I could have completely lost out because KB Homes was like, yeah, you can represent your client in this transaction. However, she's linked to another agent who will get the commission.
Ouch.
Yeah.
So the opportunity here, everybody can weigh in on this. And I learned this the hard way, Christina, just like what you went through, that as I met a new potential client as a buyer, showed them some places, demonstrated my expertise, built some rapport and some confidence that they would be comfortable with me representing them. I would then have a little buyer consultation meeting with them. And I'd do a few things. And one, I'd explain to them, this is how I work. I love representing buyers. I'm excited to help you find an amazing deal. The way this works, I don't get paid till the end of our transaction when your escrow closes. And frankly, I'm all in if it takes a month, 6 months, or a year or more. I just need to know that you're comfortable buying from me when you buy. And that was my buyer broker agreement. I never had anything signed in my life, but I had a conversation and I got a commitment from them. And at the same time that we were having that conversation, I'd say, let me explain to you how this can work. And I'd go through a list of scenarios, one of them you just described, which is, if you're interested in a new home project, the way that game works is I have to escort you on your first visit to that project and be there as you sign in, or I cannot represent you or earn a commission there. And I'd walk through every other scenario. By the way, you're likely to walk into an open house and an agent tells you a story about really your best chance to buy that deal is with them, or some story about how it's not even on the market, and explain to that buyer that very likely that's not the case. Very likely I can represent you. which is in your best interest. So I just need you to, if you hear that, give me that feedback. I'll call that agent, walk through every single scenario that might possibly show up for that buyer ahead of time so that they understood. And because I got calls just like you got, Christina, gee, I didn't know, I thought you could represent me. And it's so painful when that happens. So, and it's back on us. It's an opportunity to manage expectations, explain to them how this process works, ask for their commitment. Are you comfortable buying from me when you buy? And of course, you have that conversation after you've built rapport and demonstrated your expertise. You don't ask it the day, the minute you meet them, because they're going, I don't know, I don't even know you. John.
There's also a thing that we all get when we first joined Agent Inc., and it's a box about this big, and there's these little cards in there. And if you keep them stored away and never use them, that's great. But the other thing is you can give 8 or 10 of them to a client, say, hey, I know you're going to go to an open house or whatever, take some of my cards. And when you're going to an open house, if they say, are you working with an agent, just show them my card.
That's
and
great.
I get rid of my cards that way. It's much better than sitting at the back end of the office.
Well, this is real world real estate. This is where it's happening every day. Who else? Thoughts, comments? Christina, thanks for sharing that scenario.
Of course. Luckily, she she didn't get the house that she wanted in there. So I'm still her agent. We're still looking.
And this is a golden opportunity to just review, hey, as this process unfolds, here's some scenarios that could show up for you. Walking into someone else's open house is a big one. This is an opportunity to just talk about all that and get reaffirm their commitment to you. Are you comfortable buying from me when you buy? And those words, when you buy, were powerful for me because it didn't make someone uncomfortable feeling that I was pressing them to buy a home before they're ready. But let's face it, most buyers aren't out looking for sport. They're out looking because they need a house. And that's part of our evaluation and our buyer consultation is figuring out if they need a house. Because the worst thing we want to be doing in this market is to be playing taxi cab driver and driving people all over creation when they don't have a motivation. They don't really need a house. If the truth is, hey, if I don't find something perfect, I'll just keep renting or I'll just keep living where I am. We need to know the truth because all we have is our time and our energy to invest with and our expertise to invest in potential clients. Mr. Taylor, good morning.
Good morning. Let me weigh in on this just a little bit, okay? I'm going to weigh in philosophically. I'm going to weigh in philosophically. Number one, slavery went out with the Civil War. We don't own any client. Clients don't own us. And number two, clients always defer to whatever decision is in their best interest economically, period. That means that if it's in their best interest to allow us to be their representation, they will allow us to be their representation. If they walk into an open house and the agent tells them that you have a better shot at getting this house if we represent you, that client will, in most cases, drop an agent and in order to get the best deal. That's the reality of our business. So the ability to always both communicate and hit home the value that you bring in the representation of that client is paramount in order to have that client want you in their corner when they go to make that large purchase. That's number one. Number two is that I want to share with you something. Right now, the Department of Justice has sued the National Association of Realtors. They claim, and they're probably going to be successful, that the MLS publication of buyer side commissions is against public policy and against it's what do you recall, antitrust. Okay. And most likely within the next 2, 3, 4 years, there's going to be a decision, and that decision is going to be that the MLS is no longer going to be the, they're no longer going to split commissions that the seller pays, and that the residential market's going to go more the way of the commercial market, where buyers pay their agents and sellers pay their agents. That's probably what's going to happen. That's been in the commercial space for years. It's in a lot of European countries right now. It's in Australia, it's in France, it's in Germany, et cetera, et cetera. So there's two ways and two things that we all need to be better at, and that is that getting the agent or the buyer to sign a buyer broker agreement wherein they agree that they will pay the commission if it's not paid by the seller. That's number one. That way you actually have a contractual relationship with that client. And number two is do everything you can, as Scott said, to educate them as to the value that you bring in the representation of them in the purchase of their new home. That is absolutely key to cementing that loyalty. But I've been in the business, Scott, John's been in the business long enough to know that clients will always make the best economic decision for themselves. They'll give you lots of excuses. Oh, the buyer told me this, or oh, I didn't realize that you weren't going to get paid. You know, I've heard it all. And so is Scott, so is John, right? So just keep that in mind. You know, and that's why it's so important, so important to have that in-depth conversation with your client.
My gosh. And it's so painful when they call you all excited that they found a house over the weekend, whatever it was. And they're actually thinking that we're going to be excited too, that they bought the house without us. And it just shows that, you know, they're thinking about themselves, and I get that. But you know how many times, if I got a nickel for every time I heard an agent say to me, well, that was my client. Well, and that other agent took them, or that was my client. You know, back to Mike's point, look, they're your client if they want to be your client.
Yeah, exactly.
You go tell the world that this is my client, and that doesn't make them your client. It all comes back to the value we're able to bring. That makes them your client. I see the video with Agent Inc., Rancho Cucamonga on Route 66. I love that camera showing the new office out there. Woo! Love it, love it, love it.
Hey, Scott.
Yes, sir.
Good morning. Along the lines of what Mike was just talking about with a buyer representation agreement, back on the East Coast where I'm from, and especially in Maryland and Virginia, agents always got the agreement signed. There were, just like with a seller representation, there was exclusive and non-exclusive, but that they always said that gives me the right to represent you, and it's our contract. However, if it doesn't get enforced, you're not paying anything. So if you put in, back in the day, I'm going to get 3% commission, but the total on the deal was 5, so you're only getting 2.5. The buyer's agent never went back after the buyer for the other 0.5%. It was basically like forgiven, but it was a way to tie the client to the agent so that they wouldn't go out and have multiple agents or, you know, something else, or if the agent got stiffed, if they wanted to pursue it, they could, but I don't know anybody who ever did. So it's just, in my mind, when I was only doing title and not as an agent, it was like a gimmick to secure that relationship.
It's a tool that creates a commitment from a buyer, whether you take the legal aspect aside, it's an emotional commitment. It is a relational commitment. It's a commitment. And more often than not, that commitment leads to that client buying from you. So there's the overriding benefit. And Mike would certainly agree with you that most of the time it doesn't turn into an adversarial scenario where an agent sues a buyer because they didn't buy from them. And, you know, that's not reality most of the time. But
you know that, Scott, you're exactly right. You know, when you run into that terrible situation where they did go buy with somebody else and thinking that they would lose the opportunity, always, always, always take the high road. Always say, I'm glad that you're getting what you want. And if I can help you in any way at all, just give me a call. Because eventually they're going to tell their friends who to call. They're going to make a decision to sell the house they buy when they're ready to move on. And you want to make sure that you stay top of mind with them, that they have a great experience with you, even under adverse situations. And if you do that, you're more likely than not to be able to do future business and referral business with that individual.
That's the golden opportunity, is taking the high road. And that's exactly how our conversation started this morning when we had 3 or 4 people on the call. And John, I said, how's the weekend? And John Vaitia tells his story of they just closed an escrow. He represented the seller, some other agent represented the buyer. And the stager left some dirt in a room and it needed to be cleaned up. So John says, when the new owner calls him, he goes, I'll be right over, comes, vacuums, cleans it up, just takes the high road, offers value. And then the new homeowner, not represented by John, says to him, the folks across the street, something's, whatever, John, you said the scenario was, I think they need to sell their house. So John gets the recipient of a potentially great lead from someone that wasn't even his client 2 days ago, and taking the high road. John,
well, that's exactly right. Remember, slavery went out. We don't own anybody, and the agent on the other side doesn't own anybody. Right?
Yeah, that's the gang. Can you imagine, gang? In our profession, this gets so sideways, but it doesn't get sideways in other professions. You imagine a doctor saying, well, hey, calling another doctor saying, well, what are you doing working with my patient? It doesn't work that way. Hey, somebody mute. Somebody mute. We've got a lot of background. And I'm not sure who it is. But anyway, this is the reality. John, fill in some blanks on that story, because I know I didn't do it justice.
Well, it's real simple. I just went up and vacuumed the house. And next thing I know, we've got an opportunity to list the house across the street. So it's about helping people. It's about taking your ego out of it and the things you got to do. I could just hear some agents say, I'm not going to take my vacuum up to their house and clean their house for them. I took my vacuum and did what I was supposed to.
Hey, Scott, this is Angelo. I got a funny story to kind of piggyback off of that. I had a listing down in San Diego, and I get down there, and I'm like, after the estate sale happened, it's just dusty everywhere because the furniture had been sitting for so long in one place. And also, I had recommended the attorney find a gardener, which the estate did, but they didn't do a great job. So what I did, I just kind of take pride in what I do. I found a neighbor down the street, and I said, hey, any young kid that wants to make some extra money. So he found someone for me. Little boy charged me like $100, like rake up leaves and vacuum inside the house, just to make it look a little bit more presentable. Just little things kind of make go a long way.
That's what we do. It just sets you apart. Deborah, you remember the agent in Aspen that John knows that just goes so far above and beyond that he says, I don't remember his name, but this guy says, look, I want them to think of me if they need their tire changed on their car. I want them to think of me no matter what their need is in life. I want them to think of me first. And I love that attitude. And this gentleman just kills it. I mean, dominates this trophy resort destination, one of the world's greatest destinations, and brings that attitude to how he builds relationships, treats people, serves clients. Yeah, this is the opportunity, especially in a market like this, and loving it. That's a great reminder for me.
The reality, guys, is that as professionals, we're not just in the real estate business. Carrie and I have personally been movers. We've helped pack a whole house. We've been therapists. We've been just an ear to listen. We've been, like Angelo said, he's been the guy to find a gardener. So it really is that you've got to be the all-encompassing person for this client, because That's how you build a rapport, right? Without that, you're just another agent. You're just another phone call that they can make. But if you become that friend, that partner, that go-to person for everything. I mean, they call us to see if we know a painter. They call us to know if we know plumbers. I mean, if you're that person, you're always going to be that person. You know, we sold 2 houses to a second house to another client yesterday, and they did a video for us. And they said, you know what, they're just the person that always picks up the phone. So they're going to be our realtors for life. You know, so if you're that person, you're always going to be that person.
So, and just to piggyback on that, I know I'm guilty of this too, right? We have those text messages on our phones, and I'll get a text message. And before, when it was really a seller's market, I mean, a message would come over and it would be Sunday, and I'd be like, oh, I'll just call them back tomorrow, on a Monday. And now we're in a market where we need to be picking up our phone. It's not a text message. Even if you pick up your phone on a Sunday, you have to be even more and extra available these days to have that conversation. So I'll even pick up the phone on a Sunday and say, hey, listen, I'm doing this, this, and this. Do you mind if I call you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock so we can connect and I can get all of your information, we can go and onboard you? At least you acknowledge them. You acknowledge them. And so I think clear lines of communication are really needed right now in this market. I've had clients, if I don't explain to them that if they go to a builder without me, that I'm not their agent. So you or we as the agents have to set those clear expectations and have those conversations with them. If they don't know, there's a saying, what you don't know, if they don't know, or what does it go? How does it go? You don't know what you don't know, right? So we just feel like clear communication and really being available, picking up the phone and having those conversations, just like Scott and Mike say every week on these calls, to be readily available. Work your referral base. I'm definitely dipping in there. I'm getting into there. I'm making phone calls. Especially now at the holidays, it's a great opportunity to reach out to your clients. Even if you haven't, now is a good time.
Such an opportunity. And it just shows that I care more about than just getting a commission from you. I care about you. I care about your life. I care about how this journey goes. And I don't just care to the end of a transaction. I care for life because, that's the way I'm showing up in this world. I'm prioritizing relationships. That's what makes somebody truly wealthy in this world, is the gift of great relationships. And it just speaks volumes. And it's a differentiator. And right now, everybody out there is kind of scared.
Pick it up.
Everybody out there is scared and confused. We get to be one that steps in as a listener, as a calming force, as a perspective giver, as somebody that cares about them enough to listen and to just be there. Hey, it's all relationships. Relationships drive this business. And the better we are at building relationships and communicating with people that we care and that we know what we're doing and that we can help them, the better it goes. Deborah Robinson, good morning. You want to close us out with a thought?
I'm going to see you later. I've got a listing appointment. I'm out of here.
That's what we do. That's what we do. Deborah, good morning. Maybe she's driving and just tuned in to listen. So and that's the case with many on Monday morning. And then the neat thing is you can tune in wherever you are. You don't need to be on video. You can just be on audio. You can listen, communicate when you can. Anything for the good of the order. It's 9:30, and I love the stories. Love what we've been able to talk about today. Anybody else?
Good morning, everyone. Sorry about that. I was tied up. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Interesting market. I love all the input. I love all the good camaraderie on what everyone's dealing with in this change of our market, which we've all been through before, and it always gets better. But being as Scott always says the right thing, subservient to your clients. There's nothing we don't do as agents, right? And I've heard it all on this call. I have a listing that I have put literally 6 months of my time and hard-earned, sweat and tears into. So it's all about, what we want with our clients is a lifetime of a relationship, right? And with that relationship comes referrals. I don't think I advertise enough, but all of my advertisement comes from my clients. So I think that's what we all want to just focus on. What's everyone doing with this adjustment in the market? Like, how are we doing things differently? I'd love to hear some input.
I think for me, I'm just reaching out a lot more. I'm reaching out to my database. I have a pretty big database based on even people I've sold way back in 2008, even prior to that. I'm doing a lot more reach outs now. So being available, like I said earlier on the call, is just being readily available for them. That's kind of what I'm doing a little bit different. I'm also doing some door knocking, in my neighborhood and my farm, letting them know that I'm still there. I want to be the specialist in that area so they know that I'm still there, and just keeping my presence on social media. I'm starting to do a lot more podcasts. We're going to be doing some podcasts. Just something really quick. We're super excited. We just our first day really with having some of our agents in the office. We opened up a Inland Empire office, so that's something that we've really been focused on. Today I'll be hiring my first new assistant to come into the office, and we're excited about that. So we're just pushing forward and taking massive action, and that's what we're doing over here in the IE.
That is so exciting. And look at that office. It's all Agent Ink black and white, right on Route 66. I mean, this is our flag in the ground right there in the Inland Empire, and it's going to grow and thrive and expand. So good work.
Yeah, good work.
Yeah, we've got the artwork coming in still. The walls are a little bare, but you know what? Nothing's stopping us. We're still moving forward. We just got the sign in the front. We'll show that to you later, Scott. I'll send you off a picture, but it's really exciting. It truly is. It's something that we worked really hard for, and to be able to have this office out here is truly a dream come true, and it's all God sent and by the glory of God.
And you've shown up
Amen.
dressed for work with other members of your team in the office, starting with this call. I love it.
Baseball cap today.
All right, go get them. Thanks everybody for participating.
Bye guys.
Thank you for this.
Thanks,
Thank you
guys.
for the platform.
Thank you.